What do you do when you go in the car? Do you just sit there and relax when someone is driving you around? I drive my husband crazy. I make him stop 100 times so I can get out and take pictures. There are so many things I see out here that are photogenic or something I might be able to paint. It gives me all kinds of ideas. I don't have to go on long trips far away in order to find something to paint. I find so many things in my own backyard or right around the streets where I live. Hi. So I'm going to try to paint an oil painting today of my watercolor painting that I did of the Amalfi coast. So it probably will have a little bit more detail, but maybe not. I kind of like to do impressionistic as well. So anyway, I'm going to use this as my reference point because if I look at the actual photo, I will definitely try to put more detail in it, and I don't want that much detail. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, hope you enjoy the video, everyone. So to start with, all I'm going to do is make a mess, and I'm going to do that on purpose. Make sure that I'm using my oil paints because I have so many different paints around here. There is an actual chance that I could be using the wrong paint and not even know it. So I move everything else out of the way except the medium I am currently using. And what am I going to do? I'm just taking any color. I really don't care what it is. Some of this is even old paint, and I'm just going to move it around a little because I just want to make a generalized concept here. I'm just familiarizing myself with where I think I'm going to place different objects on this canvas. Notice the big brush. Use as big a brush as you possibly can until you have to go smaller. Here's an example of why I don't put in too much detail to start with. Everything here looks good except I don't like this. I need a little water. This is just water mixable oil paint. And I can wipe out some of that and start again. Ta-da! We're looking at perspective, and we have to make sure that we have all of these going slightly up while the ones over here go across straight. Then we want to make sure that this is going in this angle, a little wider here and going down, a little wider here and going up, and then these are coming this way into it. The shore goes back, but you can't scoop it. It will look like, you know, the water's rolling off the page, so you're gonna zigzag a little shoreline in here. Then you have your rocks over here, and we'll work into those. So the mountains in the back, the sky, all the little buildings that will be up here. I'm hoping to do this impressionistically. God, I hope I do it. I don't like to get caught up in the detail. I'll tell you, my favorite part of the whole painting is going to be right here. I just love the water right here as it gets really dark and reflects this rock. Comes in here really dark, a little bit of dark in here, and then lighter, lighter, lighter all the way back until all of this is lighter because it's receding. Okay? Well, I don't know what you are up here. You're just the roof of a house. Okay, so all of this is just, you know, I'm not going to follow it exactly because who knows, somebody could have built on this little coastline since then. Maybe the houses look a little different, but we get the gist of the thing. My colors are lighter in the background right now. I'm choosing lighter, paler colors with less yellow in them, not quite as intense. And of course, as I've said many times in the past, darker and warmer as I come forward. You can pre-mix your colors, or you can work right on the canvas mixing them, or you can just choose each little bit of paint as you go along, mixing to get the right tone. The mountains, the water, it's not all exactly the same color everywhere anyway, so it's okay if you mix it a little bit here and there. Whatever is the easiest way for you to do the painting. I think it's interesting, though, when you've got several tones in several places. But for the most part, the mountains have cyan blue in them. Yes, they also have a little bit of gray in them, and a little bit to make that gray, I've used some lavender, and I've used a tiny bit of my green, Viridian green. The grasses in the back are mostly Viridian green, but they have other things mixed in them as well, like white. The grasses in the front are mostly olive green, but they also have dioxazine purple in them. And in some places, they've got yellow ochre. They even have burnt sienna. So I mix all different colors together to get the depth and the variety that I want. In the front of the jetty, we need that darker down there. It throws a shadow into the water, and it does have some height, therefore it has a shadow on that side. And then as you get farther up to the top, it's lighter where the sun is hitting it. The most complicated thing I'm going to have to do is that little concrete structure that holds up those homes. And of course, I'm leaving it for last because it's my nemesis. Now you see, I've painted some of that green in there very solid, and I don't like that solidly. So I will go back in and break that up. There are no grasses and leaves that are a solid chunk of green unless you're painting modern art and you just want it to be a block of color. That cyan blue is a lot like the glacial blue that I used in my watercolor in the same scene. The water in the back has an awful lot of white in it, and it also has some yellow in it, which I'll put in later, where the sun is striking it. The water in the front has some beautiful dark tones. There's some greens and some darker ultramarine blues up there, and some white swirls, which basically are the lighter blue from the back swirling through it. That's a very fun part of the painting. That's my solvent. Gamblin Odorless Medium. It's a gel. Helps me to mix my water mixable paints. And they also come with their own medium, but it's liquid and I don't like it as much. I do use it though. Big brush again. Sometimes the rhythm of application really matters, and I pay very close attention to that toward the end of my painting. For instance, the swirls in the water. I'm doing little choppy strokes right now, but I will make sweeping strokes in the end. But each layer of paint I put on gets thicker, and so that final layer, I will pay attention to how I apply the paint. If that was my only layer, I would have laid it on very thickly and been very careful which way I stroked the paint. But since I know I'm going over it again, I know I'm going to have another chance to put in the sweeping motion that I want in my water. Just putting in a little bit of the darker tones and the waves action in the little bit of the currents that are blowing in the water. So while you don't have big waves, you do have movement. And shadows, it's so beautiful. A lot of things I didn't show you because just filling in paint is not so interesting, but the way you do the water, going over it layer by layer, a little light, a little dark, is kind of interesting. These buildings have a warm tone toward the end there, and then they become almost sunnier, closer to the left side of the painting where the concrete structure is. I don't know what to call that. So they have different tones in them, lighter, darker, golder, yellower. So I've had a few more hours of painting with the peace and quiet. So many decisions have to be made. It's so difficult to do it with the camera on, trying not to get in the way. I honestly can't paint as good as I normally do when I'm trying to paint with the filming going on at the same time. But at any rate, I'm not done with this, and I'll try to show you some of the final details. Lots of stuff still have to be done and corrected. And honestly, it could take me hours to get this painting finished, and you will not want to watch all of that. But I do want you to see where I'm at right now. I did use some of the palette knife, and I'll show you a little bit of that tomorrow. I like to use it up front and put it on kind of thickly, whereas the back of the painting has a smoother look because it's farther away. And some things need to be adjusted a little bit, like my rock down on the bottom, which I absolutely love. Like I said, it was going to be my favorite part, but yet I've made this look like a cave right here, so I need to fill that in just a little bit. It's not a cave, even though I kind of like that look, but that's not the way it really is, so I can't leave it that way. But we're getting there. If you look closely at this concrete structure, it's just 7 boxes on top of each other. They're at a slight angle, so the sun is hitting them, and you can see that it's striking inside the box, but as you go farther into the box, the sun is not reaching in there, so it's darker there. And I've chosen purple as my shadow color inside there because I think it complements the green and the orange that's in the painting. That's how you give something dimension. Red and green make brown. And I want some of that brown down here. In this case, I used olive green. And I'm going to use a little bit of purple to darken it even more. So I want a color, but I want it to be dark. A little bit of ultramarine blue too. Wipe. I'm letting a little bit of this mix on purpose. Again, I'm always struggling when I want you to see what I'm doing. It is much easier for me to do this without the camera going so I can get in front of it where I need to be. Lay it down, smear it around. I'm just trying to show you how to use the knife in strategic places. I'm just showing you a little bit of this so you have an idea of how to do it. Touch lightly or you'll scrape your paint right off. Probably my hand is right in the way. Ugh. There goes a little Gabby with her crying and whining. I'd like to add a little tiny bit of yellow in here, but in another spot, because once you put yellow with white, man, you cannot get it out. So don't mix it into all your white or you're in trouble. There's a little here. Don't go overboard. Don't want too much. Wipe off my knife, go back into my darker, smear it in a little. The knife can do some rubbing. All you have to do is just kind of rub it around. Underneath here, get yourself a nice dark. I could put it back there, but you know why I'm not going to? Even though those are dark underneath there, I do not want that to have the same intensity that this does up here. And no, you can't just leave it pigeonholed in there. If you want that area dark, then that area needs to be dark, not just scraped half on and half off. Okay. Now, medium colors. It's light, but it's not as light as the other. These rocks are all over the place. I can leave some light and some dark on my palette knife because I don't mind having more than one color going down at the same time here. So you get the idea. I will finish that. Again, up in, for instance, an area like this, we can't be unrealistic, but yes, I want a little thicker yellow there. Why? Because this is kind of my focal point right here. That's what I've decided. I mean, this could be a focal point, that could be a focal point, but I've decided this is the focal point. So I'm putting my lightest light against what's going to be my darkest dark in here. So this will be darker. Going to come out further. Now, I need to bring this down a little more. Remember, I was correcting this yesterday because I didn't quite get it to scoop. It looked more like a little cave. And I'm going to come forward here with this just a little. Whoops. Push too hard. Okay. Even a little more. Good. And then a little more of this here. And that way. So you see I've brought this down now and I've darkened this up here. I'll darken this water just a little bit more. I'd like to put a little bit of a glaze in here, so I may wait till it dries a little. Layer after layer after layer. A little denser in some spots. We have rocks shining through. We're going to come up here. I was hoping this would dry a little bit so I could lay some of this in through here. I had this over a little too far at one point, and then I had to go over it and darken it. Very hard to do over light. So I'll be moving around just a little bit more here and there, putting in a little more green here. I won't do the dark up there, because if I do, we will end up drawing the eye back into the areas that really aren't supposed to have that much. Let's see if I can just show you a little. A house is up here. A roof is over here. That's too bright. And then mixed with white, because we do not want it that bright, we have spots out here that have a little bit, come on, a little bit of color here and there. These have very little. There's that spot there. Under here has color. The top of this rock. So we'll splash color here and there where we think we need it. Anyway, we're going to call that finished, and then I'll show you the final product. I hope you all enjoyed it. I enjoyed bringing it to you. It's a little bit of my heritage, since my family all comes from Italy. And there's nothing I love better than painting and family, so those two things are wonderful together. Have a wonderful day, everyone.